So how do we arrange objects or different elements in a room to create a formal or an informal look? Hi everyone, it's Carol from Discover Interior Design, and I'm so glad you're here. Well, in this video, we're going to be using symmetrical balance and asymmetrical balance to help us group different objects to create either a formal look or an informal look. So let's get started and see how we can do that. So when we want to bring a formal look to a room or an informal look to a room, we use a variety of things to help us do that. That could be us choosing a certain type of furniture, or maybe certain types of colors or certain types of fabrics. But another thing to think about is how we group objects and elements in a room to create a formal or an informal look. And that's where we can use the two types of balances of symmetrical balance and asymmetrical balance. And symmetrical balance and asymmetrical balance are part of what we call the interior design principles, which I like to think of as guidelines that we follow so that we can create a harmonious look to a room and to our home. And balance just has to do with how we kind of group things together so that we can create an overall sense of balance and a sense of equilibrium. And symmetrical balance and asymmetrical balance do this in different ways. And symmetrical balance is based on having everything kind of centered on a center point or a central imaginary access line, whether that's a vertical line or a horizontal line or both, and maybe a central point of a specific area. And when we group objects in this sort of balance, we can actually place an imaginary line down the center of that grouping, and we would find that there's a mirror image on either side. And this type of balance creates kind of a formal look to a grouping or an arrangement of different elements. It's very structured, and in a way it kind of helps us feel calm because it is kind of structured and everything is centered. And with asymmetrical balance, we can group different elements together, and we can base it on a central access line, whether that's vertical or horizontal. But another thing that's kind of important to think about when we are using asymmetrical balance is a defined area. So what is the whole entire area that we're looking at to arrange different elements? And also visual weight. So when we see a grouping of elements that are arranged together in an asymmetrically balanced way, we can draw an imaginary line down the center of that, but we'll notice that there isn't a mirror image on either side. But if we kind of step back and look at the entire grouping, we will notice it still has a very balanced look to it. And what we kind of have to work with is visual weight, because we're working with kind of different things and things placed in different areas, and things aren't necessarily centered. And so we want to make sure that we use visual weight, which is just all about where our eye goes, what is grabbing our attention. So if we have one object that has more visual weight than other objects, we need to kind of offset that visual weight and put some more visual weight on another side to help offset that balance and to bring an overall sense of balance to this overall grouping. And when you group things in an asymmetrical way, it gives that arrangement a more casual and informal look. So let's take a look at some examples of where we could use symmetrical balance and asymmetrical balance in a room where you would want to bring either a formal or an informal look to that grouping of different elements. And there are many ways to arrange different objects in a room and different ways to group things together. And in this video, I'm just providing just a couple ideas, but if you have some other ideas of how we could arrange these objects that we will talk about in this video together in a grouping, please share your ideas in the comments. So in this first example, we're just grouping 5 different types of artwork together. And on the left side, we've grouped them in a symmetrically balanced way. And then on the right side, we've grouped them in an asymmetrically balanced way. And if we take a look at each of them in more detail, we can take a look at the symmetrically balanced grouping. And we can see right away that that largest painting is centered right in the center of everything, and the other paintings are on either side. And if we were to draw an imaginary line down the center of this whole arrangement, it would be a mirror image on either side. And then if we took a look at the asymmetrically balanced arrangement, we can get a sense that there is an overall sense of balance. There's some sort of balance going on. It's not symmetrically balanced, but there's a sense that this overall arrangement looks and feels pretty balanced. There is a larger painting on the left side, and if we just kind of left that by itself, that may kind of look a little unbalanced. So by placing those other paintings on the other side and kind of working on balancing everything within a certain defined area, all together, we would say that this arrangement can create a nice and overall balanced look. So with the symmetrically balanced look, we could say that it's a little bit more formal and a little bit more structured, whereas the asymmetrically balanced look is a little more informal and a little bit more casual. And then in this second example, we can take a look at arranging different objects on a mantel over a fireplace. And this could even be on a shelf. And we can take a look at the symmetrically balanced arrangement on the left side and the asymmetrically balanced look on the right side. And when we look at the symmetrically balanced look just by itself, we can see that the vase is centered right in the center, and actually that vase is actually even centered over the fireplace itself. A totally great example, even just by itself, of symmetrical balance, where we could draw a line right down the center and there would be a mirror image on either side. But then when we add the books on either side, we are doing the same thing on either side. It's an equal amount of visual weight. So we have the same books on either side of that vase, and if we were to draw a line down the center, there would be a mirror image. Then with the asymmetrical layout, the vase is on the left side, and to kind of offset the visual weight, that vase really is the focal area of that arrangement. We want to kind of create some sort of sense of kind of more visual weight on the other side as well to kind of offset that balance. It's not going to be the same amount of visual weight, but it will help to kind of offset that balance, but also still provide a sense where we look at the vase first as the focal area, but then the entire arrangement together kind of comes together because everything relates to one another in this entire grouping. So with the symmetrical arrangement, it gives more of a formal look to that entire grouping, whereas the asymmetrical arrangement is more informal and casual. In this example, we have a sofa with 2 pillows, and on the left we have a symmetrically balanced arrangement, and then on the right an asymmetrically balanced arrangement. In the symmetrically balanced arrangement, we put 1 pillow on each side of the sofa, and right away we could split that in half and see that there's a mirror image on either side. And that look gives us a very structured and formal look to that sofa. Whereas in the asymmetrically balanced arrangement, we have 2 pillows on one side and no pillows on the other. And if we look at that arrangement overall with that entire grouping, the sofa and those pillows, we still kind of get a sense of equilibrium, where the two pillows on the one side don't necessarily overpower things too much. There is more visual weight where those two pillows are, but the rest of the sofa has a lot of space around it and in a way kind of offsets the two pillows on the other side. Plus, on top of it, it kind of gives us a little bit more of an interesting look and a less formal look to that sofa arrangement. And one cool thing to think about when you are grouping objects and you want to bring either a formal look to that grouping or an informal look to that grouping is that most likely in your room, those groupings are not in isolation. They are relating to something else. And it could be something that's the opposite type of balance. So a good example of that could be a sofa that is centered on a wall. And right away, that's a good example of symmetrical balance, where we could draw a line down the center of that wall, down the center of that sofa, and there would be a mirror image on either side. And that gives us a nice formal look just to that simple furniture arrangement. But if we want to break it up a little bit and make it a little bit more informal, that entire look, maybe we use asymmetrical balance to arrange and group artwork over the sofa. So it helps to kind of create a more casual look to that area. So I'd love to know if you have any questions around this topic, and if you have a moment in your busy day to kind of check out how you arrange different objects in your home and whether it's in a more formal way using symmetrical balance or a more informal way of using asymmetrical balance. So share what you find in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.